Sarah Morgan, Principals Jordan Beery and Dr. Anders Omers, and then from our CSGK staff, Melissa Andrig and Katie Allen. So even though you may only hear my voice tonight, I'm speaking really on behalf of this whole group has put in a tremendous amount of work to kind of bring us to where we are tonight. For our agenda this evening, we're going to hopefully take probably 20 to 25 minutes, where we're going to talk about what the changes that are coming up, kind of how Explains Tuition flows into our system, kind of other how we got to some of these changes in our structure, show some examples, and then leave some time for some questions and answers. So in the Zoom screen, you've got the opportunity for Q&A button, and we've got some folks who are monitoring those questions. Are going to kind of try to group those questions together so we can answer some of those near the end. We may group them according to similar questions. And for any of those questions that we don't get to tonight, as a wrap up in this presentation, we'll be posting answers in follow-up over the course of the next several days and actually weeks. But we'll talk a little bit more about the rollout of that process. So in short, we thought we'd kind of cut to the chase and get to where we're to kind of the bottom line, the ultimate answer. We are restructuring tuition from a sliding scale that is currently based on over 40 different income levels to a flat fee structure with the availability of discounts and adjustments. We'll get into the specifics on how all of that works in a few minutes, but we want to just highlight a few things. This change is a good change. It is intended to make things less complicated for you, both during the enrollment and the tuition billing and payment process. We'll also talk about a couple of changes that are related to financial aid as well. This change is also aligning our tuition structure with trends in the school community, and we're building a stable tuition system for the future. We are not doing this because we are in any sort of financial distress or because we sense there are major cuts on the horizon. We are doing this, the changes that we're making are good and are contributing to our stable future. This change has been carefully planned to reduce the impact to as many of our families as possible. 2/3 of our families will see a change of less than $500 in tuition. Some will see an increase, and there actually will be others who experience a tuition decrease. Overall, this change is revenue neutral. We are not making a bunch of extra money because of this change. We are simply covering the cost to educate our kids and trying to do so in a more simple way. Finally, we've always been and we always will take a personal and caring approach to our families. We will work both at the building level as well as at the CSGK level to help guide families through the change with care and compassion for each and every one of your personal financial situations. Now, when we talk some about CSGK, whether you've been in the system, just if this is your first year or if you've been in the system for a dozen years, we know that not everybody understands what CSGK is and how everything works. So we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this, but we're going to spend just a couple minutes to kind of make sure that we're all on somewhat the same page. The Catholic Schools of Greater Kalamazoo, CSGK, was formed in 2004 as a result of a blue ribbon committee from the Diocese of Kalamazoo. We are really a system of 3 schools, St. Monica, St. Augustine, and Hackett, working together as a system, helping our students to go above and beyond to serve others, grow in faith, and excel in academics. CSGK is supported by the 8 parishes in the Greater Kalamazoo area that are listed on the screen. While CSGK has a particular vision and mission of its own, the vision is to form the entire person, mind, body, and soul through the cultivation of faith, knowledge, and service. Each school has its own mission statement that is customized to the unique culture of that school. Part of the reason for CSGK to exist is to realize the efficiencies between the 3 schools for shared service. Out of the CSGK shared service structure results the business office, the food service program, human resources, payroll, finance, advancement, and technology. Tuition and enrollment are part of that CSGK business office and are supported by a finance committee that's made up of representatives from all three buildings, as well as the business office. Every year, the finance committee reviews tuition, including evaluating the cost of education and how to offer our quality educational services at the best price possible. To give a sense of how tuition flows into the overall financials of CSGK, we are presenting this graph. The bulk of our revenue comes from tuition, 63% of it. This is supplemented by a contribution from our 8 local parishes that at 21% totals over $1 million that's contributed to our schools every year. The rest of the pie is made up of donations, funds received for tuition assistance, preschool tuition, athletic revenue, and many other income streams. This year, when the Finance Committee reviewed tuition, there were a few things at play. At the core, all of our decisions about tuition are guided by ensuring quality education and ensuring that we can pay our teachers fairly, making sure our resources are utilized most efficiently to carry out our mission, and being good stewards to our families and finding ways to make our Catholic education affordable. A major driver of some of the change that's happening this year that involves this deep review of tuition comes to us from our FACS system. FACS, which used to be known as RenWeb, is the system where you complete your enrollment forms, check grades, your items, but FACS is much more than that. FACS is an industry standard school management software that serves over 7,000 private and faith-based schools. The CSGK Business Office utilizes FACS to power our student database and manage tuition billing and receipts. The FACS module that we are currently using to manage tuition is changing. Our current tuition structure involving the 40+ income levels can no longer be supported. While that change can raise questions and maybe a little scary, the opportunity to update the software is going to result in many benefits to you, our families. Things will be simpler because enrollment, tuition billing, and tuition payments will all be handled in a more efficient way through one system. They will be integrated through one single sign-on in the family portal. In addition, other billing items will eventually be moved to FACS. Some examples of these include deposits to the Hackett lunch account, payment for sports gear, after school care at both St. Monica and St. Augustine schools, and payment for middle school sports. In addition, the tuition assistance module through FACS, we will be utilizing that, and it's going to be operated with all of the with all of the documents being maintained by FACS, with final decisions being made locally while FACS evaluates the data. The tuition committee spent many months doing research on other schools, both locally throughout our state and actually throughout the Midwest, to help determine how we might implement some changes. We found that most Catholic schools are not basing tuition solely on income levels as we were doing. The committee also engaged in many discussions with FACS to make sure that we were maintaining as many of our existing discounts and adjustments as we could, while understanding how the software was changing and what we could do to most effectively utilize that. We performed dozens of calculations with varying inputs to ensure that costs would not dramatically increase, even if we changed how tuition rates were structured. So at the end of the day, what will the tuition look like at our CSJK schools, and what does that mean for you and your family? Before we get into the numbers, you are welcome to take notes, but we want to let you know that a copy of this presentation, of this live presentation, will be posted to our website within the next few hours. We have also created a tuition estimator. We're going to show you a screenshot of that. With a few selections, you will be able to also in those same few hours input the number of your students, ranges of an income level, and it's going to give you an estimate of what your tuition will look like, subject to the input of your final income amounts, which if you're like me and haven't done your taxes yet, that may be the best guess that you have is just an estimate. But those pieces will be live, so you don't need to furiously scribble notes if you're not able to. So our tuition, the tuition structure, this flat tuition rate, we have flat rates for parishioners at the high school level of $11,500 and at the K through 8 level of $6,400. Those amounts are before there are any considerations of multi-child discounts, as well as adjustments that are based on income levels. We also have, just as we non-parishioner rates at the high school and K through 8. Those rates are also subject to the multi-child discount. They are not adjusted for income, and that approach, that structure is no different than it is today. So in this particular screen, there is a lot of information here. The FACT system that we have been talking about will automatically apply the multi-child discount, which here we're identifying that for the second child, there's a flat discount dollar amount of $1,500 for a second child. For a third child, it's $3,000. And for the fourth child and above, the discount is $6,400 each. Based on today's tuition number, that would really indicate that certainly at the elementary, for that fourth child and above that's at the elementary level, there is no tuition for the fourth child and above, which is no different than where we are today. After that multi-child discount is applied, tuition amounts will be adjusted based on the income level as shown on the table on the right, as long as you're an active member of one of our supporting parishes. Both of these numbers will be factored into the tuition estimator, give it at the appropriate levels. Some other pieces to keep, or some other pieces to note, with that increased flat tuition dollar amount, there will no longer be a separately billed enrollment fee. As long as enrollment is done by the published deadline, there will be no separate check to write for that enrollment fee. Failure to enroll by that deadline, there will be a small additional amount that will be paid for that late registration. Additionally, at the high school level, students will not be subject to additional fees for technology, books, or retreat. All of these costs are rolled into that tuition amount for high school. We are trying to consolidate fees that apply to all students. We're trying to consolidate those into tuition. Individual items that don't apply to every student, such as graduation or AP classes, will still need to be billed and paid. And the plan is that those would be billed and paid through the family portal in FACTS. After the flat fee tuition is discounted for multiple children and or adjusted for income, there are still a variety of ways for families to affect the affordability of Catholic school education. Families have access to the TRIP program, the Tuition Reduction Incentive Program, that's run through Raise Right. In short, that through that program, you are able to purchase gift cards to hundreds of stores and restaurants, gas stations. Each one of those establishments gives a particular discount percentage for the purchase of those gift cards. And then the school ends up receiving a check for those throughout the year. And those dollars are tied to your family and applied directly against your family's tuition. We also have referral incentives that help bring down the final cost of tuition. CSGK does offer, through generous donations, tuition assistance to families that need it. And then lastly, we do offer payment plans. So families can either choose to pay in one lump sum, and if they are able to do that, they are eligible for a discount for paying that annually in one lump sum. And we now are offering payment plans over 12 months rather than over 10 months for this upcoming school year. As we mentioned a little bit about tuition assistance, the tuition assistance program is being run by FACTS. That is going to be a new change for us. They have separate requirements for some of the information that they need to be able to evaluate tuition assistance, and that information will be forthcoming in some separate communications. There is a separate application fee for that tuition assistance application, but more information to come after we get the enrollment documents published. So here is a quick example of what how this tuition calculation can look. In this particular example, we have a family who is a parishioner at one of our parishes, and they have a child at one of our elementary schools in the 5th grade. Their flat rate of tuition is $6,400. Now, since they only have one child, there is no multi-child discount that applies. However, this family is in the $90,000 income bracket. So with that, they are eligible for a 35% income adjustment, tuition discount, if you will, which that leads to an adjusted tuition amount of $4,160. This particular family has participated in both our TRIP program, and they referred a family to one of our schools, ultimately leading towards their final tuition bill of being $3,410. If they were to pay that bill in full, they would get an additional discount off of that $3,410 of 3%. Or if they would so choose, they can make 12 monthly payments of $284.17 a piece. This particular screen is the version that is going to be going live in the next few hours of the tuition estimator that will be found on our website. In the upper left-hand corner, where you're just identifying if you're Catholic and registered at one of our participating parishes through that checkbox. The number of elementary, middle schoolers, and high schoolers. There's a drop-down box where you can choose the numbers from a list. The income adjustment, you're picking one of those 5 buckets, and through that process, where it says add children, your estimated tuition number will show there on an annual basis, and then in the green box below it where there's the dash, that will be the monthly amount based on the 12-month payment plan. For some other examples, we identified, so part of our process has been to take then this particular, the tuition numbers and the discount the multi-child and the income discount amounts and applying them to some of our real life situations. And in this particular case, with a family with one high schooler and one child in one of our K-8 buildings, they are a parishioner at one of our parishes, and they're in the $60,000 income bracket. While all of the inputs on the top, several lines are different, but the left-hand column is the tuition model for the 22-23 school year that we're just ending. And the column on the right is based on the flat rate. Drawing your attention by the time you get down to the second line from the bottom, final tuition under our current structure would be $7,832. And under our new structure is $4,920. And then you can see the per month amounts of $783 if it's paid over 10 months versus $410 being paid over 12 months. As we said, some of our families will see some decreases. This is an example of one of those families. The next slide shows a family that would actually would see an increase. And in this particular case, they have two students in our elementary building. They also are parishioners, and they are in the $80,000 income bracket. So in the second line from the bottom, by the time you move through the detail between the two calculations, the final tuition under the existing structure is $6,539. Under the new structure, it's $7,345. So the increase is a little bit less than $1,000. With the 12-month payment plan, their monthly cost would drop a little bit from what they're used to paying over the 10 months. But this also is before any trip credits or any referral discounts or tuition assistance may be applied. There are many scenarios where tuition will change. We have tried to structure this change to affect the least number of people as possible, with as small of a change as possible. Just with that family, as well as with anybody else, we understand that change like this can feel a little bit scary, especially as we start to see that maybe some of our dollars are increasing by a little bit more than what we thought, keeping in mind where that enrollment fee, how that enrollment fee plays in between the two scenarios. That accounts for part of the change. But the principals and the finance committee and the CSGK staff are absolutely committed to making this change work for each of our school families. We will work with you through questions, help guide you through the process, and will ensure that no child will be denied a Catholic education due to financial need. What happens next? Enrollment is going to open on Monday, March the 6th. There's information here about going to the CSGK page, clicking on admissions to log into FACS and to begin that enrollment process. There will be other information that comes out to direct you to that link as well. All of the enrollment and tuition information will be housed in FACS, so you'll have a good understanding of how that is going to work as you enroll. Actually, one of the steps that we will be using as part of that enrollment process is using that tuition estimator as part of that enrollment piece. So just you will see it one time if you choose to go there later tonight or tomorrow or anytime thereafter, and then there'll be other opportunities to end up seeing that as well. The last day to apply to re-enroll in our schools without incurring a late fee is May 1st. Those paying in 12 monthly installments will incur their first payment on either July 1st or July 16th. There will be, the payment days are going to be the 1st or the 16th of the month, unless one of those falls on a weekend, in which case then it will turn into the next business day following that 1st or the 16th. FACS will tell you exactly when those dates are. And then payment in full families will need to make their payments by August 10th in order to receive the discount. that date is a little bit later than what it has been, but based on some of the timing that we need to have to make some of those payment in fulls happen, FACTS is telling us that we need to move that date a little bit. So as a reminder, a video replay of this presentation, as well as the tuition estimator, will be available in the next few hours. We also have been gathering some questions. We have a few minutes to run through a couple of those. So answers to any of those questions that we answer yet tonight, or that we get and that we have not had a chance to answer, we will get those posted within the next 24 to 48 hours. And then we'll be posting answers to additional questions each Monday as we get those, just to keep them in, just to keep you informed, and we'll date those so you'll know which ones are new ones. But since we have a few minutes, I'd like to ask Ellen Brown. Ellen and Melissa Andreg and Maureen Yannick have been trying to monitor some of the questions and see if we've got anything that are some more common questions that we might have a few minutes to take the opportunity to answer.
Thanks, Mike. Can you hear me, Mike?
Sure can.
Okay, great. So a question that a couple of questions that were the same that came in was, will there be a paid in full lump sum discount? And yes, we are still maintaining the paid in full discount of 3% on the August 10th enrollment deadline, initial enrollment deadline. Some familiar questions are popping up as we expected in this webinar that also popped up in our two focus groups that we held. Why is tuition changing? Very good question. We are moving away from a sliding scale based on an over 40 different income level to a flat fee with the availability of discounts and adjustments. This change is good. It makes things less complicated for you during the enrollment and tuition financial aid process. As we continue to enhance our school information system, which is FACTS, we learned that certain processes that we're currently using are antiquated. FACTS identified that our current tuition scale would need to be simplified to be able to integrate with the FACTS platform. So we see this as aligning our tuition structure with trends in the school community and building a stable tuition system for the future. We are not doing this because there are major cuts on the horizon or that the schools are in any sort of financial distress. Overall, this change is revenue neutral, which means that we are not increasing our revenue as a result of this change. Another predominant question that we had this evening and throughout our focus groups were, is what steps were taken to implement the tuition restructure? Well, we spent months doing research on other schools locally and statewide, and found that most Catholic schools are not basing tuition solely on income level, as we were doing. This includes, but is not limited to, schools in Jackson, Lansing, Grand Rapids, and Detroit. We held several meetings with FACTS to make sure we were understanding the software and how it would enhance our enrollment here at CSGK. Our enrollment process, our billing process, our payment process, and our collection process. Could that all be handled under one roof in a robust FACTS software? We did analysis, including a review of over 10 different financial models to ensure that the cost to educate would not dramatically increase. The cost of tuition would not dramatically increase, even if we changed how tuition rates were restructured. Data from this school year, this current school year, was used to see how families would be affected and to ensure that we are covering the cost to educate your children. We used a few research data to find local median income for a family of 5. This data found that the following income levels, brackets, under 60,000 adjusted gross income would equal a lower income bracket. Between $60,001 to $170,000 would equate to the middle income bracket. And $170,001 and over would equate to our higher income level. And then another predominant question was, what does the tuition process look like moving forward? Again, another very good question. We now use fax to pay tuition. So this modern software has a confidential and systematic approach. The software will simplify tuition payments for both our families and the CSGK business office. Many families are already familiar with fax. We use fax for checking grades, which I do for my children, school directory, announcements, attendance, and that's just to name a few of the different widgets on the fax app. Things will be simpler. Fax will manage tuition and tuition assistance in a more automated way through this one system. Fax is the industry standard school management software. It's currently serving over 6,000 private and faith-based schools. I think, Mike, we have time for one last question.
Can I jump in real quick here, Ellen?
Sure.
This is Maureen Yannick, and we had a couple questions that just wanted to clarify. Some people were asking about the multi-child discounts, and is it, they are all cumulative. So for the first child, you get the one discount, for the second child, you get the next, and for the fourth and beyond, you get the 6,400. So those do add up. It isn't just the 6,400 if you have 4 children. And then, right. And then another question about preschool. Preschool is an entirely separate tuition schedule. So unfortunately, the tuition for preschoolers does not count in your K through 8 or K through 12 in this situation for our CSGK schools.
Right. So we had one more question, Mike, if we have time for it.
I think we have time for one last one.
Okay. All right. Thank you. What are now the key components of the new tuition rates, discounts, and adjustments? So in review, tuition will be one flat rate for the K-8 schools and one flat rate for the high school. And as Maureen mentioned, the preschool tuition is a separate schedule. And the fax system will automatically apply 2 items to each family's tuition rate during the enrollment process, if applicable to your family. So the first item would be a multi-child discount, and then an adjustment based on income level, as long as you are an active member of one of the 8 supporting parishes.
Thank you, Ellen and Maureen and Melissa, for looking at the questions, accumulating the most common ones. Again, we will, for any of those that we didn't answer live in this session, we will get answers out in the next couple of days. I want to be sure that I don't commit that it's a day, because I don't know how many questions are necessarily out there. So I do want to make sure that everybody is aware that as part of this presentation, that email addresses, so you can reach out as far as if you have additional questions, you are more than welcome to reach out to our CSGK staff, Melissa Andreg, So she's our business manager. And then Katie Ackerman is our new enrollment director. We're super excited to have Katie with us. And so she is getting the opportunity to answer some questions as well. Their email addresses are part of the presentation. They will be available on the website. You also are more than welcome to reach out to your principals to get, if there are some, if you feel comfortable asking some questions from them or learning some about that financial aid process. They won't necessarily be the ones to guide you through it, but they can at least get you to the right person or the right link to fax or however that might work. But they have said in every meeting that we've been part of that they are committed to working with all of our families, so all of our families stay and ensuring that no child will be denied a Catholic education due to financial need. With that, I think that will end the meeting. I thank you all for your time. We may have gone a little bit longer than what we intended, but thank you for your time, and we look forward to hearing about any questions, answering questions that you have. Enjoy the rest of your evening.